Hi guys, my name's Terry and today I want to share a recipe with you. It's my favourite, it's a spicy chicken breast with Patatas Bravas in a spicy tomato sauce. I'll put the ingredients at the end of the video. I hope you enjoy it and let's get started. Now the seasoning I'm going to be using for today's recipe is Aldi's chicken seasoning. Got a pink top on it. Now that's really nice. It's a nice spicy flavour, but it's not too hot, so if you don't like hot spicy food, it's quite nice. It's a bit like a mild barbecue flavour, so it's quite nice. So I'm going to be using this. So what we'll do now, we'll season the chicken. So here I've got two nice chicken breasts, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice right down the edge of this breast here. Start with this one, sharp knife. So I'm just going to slice right down there, like that, and open it up. So I want like a butterfly effect. Let's turn that round. Let's get these opened up. The reason I'm doing this is because I want the spices inside the chicken all the way through it. Okay, so that's that one done. Like a butterfly effect if you like, so that's slit right down the side there. Now I'm going to start on the second one, and we're going to cut this one. I'm going to cut this one here. So again, slice down there. You don't want to go all the way through because you don't want to cut them in half. You just want to get that spice right inside the chicken. Okay, so that should do it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the spices. So that's nice to cut in half. So we're going to add the spices now. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the chicken are opened up. So I can start by getting the spices into the middle of the chicken. And I'm just literally going to sprinkle the Aldi chicken seasoning over it like that, and then I'm going to keep turning it around, and I want that spice mixing nicely into that chicken. Okay, so once you've done that, add a little bit more. Okay, and really get it in there, give it a really good turning around so you get all that spice in all the chicken, so there's none of it missed out. Get it rubbed in like that, so there's no chicken that's been missed. How much you put in is entirely up to you. I'm just going to put a touch more in there. That's as you can see now, that's well mixed in. Okay, so what you need to do now is you need to put that in the fridge and let it marinate for a good couple of hours. So that's the chicken, as you can see. So I'm going to let that marinate in the fridge for about 2 hours. So we'll leave the chicken in the fridge for about 2 hours to marinate for the spices to get well into the chicken, and then we'll move on to the next stage, which will be making the sauce. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare the potatoes for the Patatas Bravas. Okay, so the recipe that we're going to be making today will feed 2 people. So we've got the chicken prepared. The next thing we need to do is to prepare the potatoes. I've got 3 decent sized peeled potatoes here that I've already peeled, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut these into chunks. Okay, so you want them good sized chunks, you know, about 1.5 centimetres each, something like that. So that's the next stage. Now the wife loves these, so I always make her bit extra. So just cut them into the decent sized chunks. And then once you've got all your potatoes chopped, here I've got a pan of salted water, just cold salted water. Put them in there and just leave them until you're ready to cook your chicken. And your next thing we need to make is a sauce. So just leave these soaking in the salty water for a good couple of hours while your chicken marinates, and then we'll come on to the next stage, which will be making the sauce. So we'll do that in about an hour or so. So we'll come back in about an hour. So we've chopped the potatoes and we've had them soaking, and as you can see there's a lot of starch in the water. It looks quite murky, so what we want to do is we want to rinse them, give them a good rinsing in a colander and put them back in the water, and the water should be nice and clear. You want to get rid of all that starch. So I've given the potatoes a good rinsing in a colander, and as you can see the water is nice and clear, so that's all the starch washed out of the potatoes. That helps to get a nice crispy potato once you get them in the oven. So the next stage will be creating the sauce. So the ingredients that I'm going to be using for this sauce is going to be 1 medium-sized onion, paprika. Now I'm using ordinary paprika, but the best way to do it would be with sweet paprika, but we've run out unfortunately, because we do like this sauce, so we have run out. So I'm going to be using ordinary paprika, but I'll compensate the sweetness with a pinch of caster sugar. So that's paprika, and then we've got chilli powder to give it a kick. Now this is a mild chilli powder. And then we've got, I'm going to be using garlic granules, or you can use garlic cloves, but if you want to, you can use garlic granules, which I will be using. Then we've got a tin of chopped tomatoes. Now when I do this, I'm going to put these chopped tomatoes through the food processor and pulse it about 3 times. And I want to get rid of the chunks of tomato in there, so I will be doing that. Then we've got tomato puree, a couple of tablespoons of tomato puree. Now you should be using olive oil, but we've run out, so I'm going to be using vegetable oil, although we use a little bit of it. And then obviously, because I've run out of sweet paprika, I will be sweetening it with a touch of caster sugar. So they're the ingredients that we'll be using to make this sauce. Okay, so we're going to start by peeling the onion and dicing it. Now we want it diced really fine. We don't want great big chunks of onion in the sauce. Okay, and the way that I do it is, if you slice it from that root to that root there in half, like that, and then you just chop this head, not the root, keep the root because you want to keep the onion together, chop the other end. So cut that end off there, and again keep the root and cut that end off there. Okay, so we can now peel the onion. Okay, so you peeled your onion. You've still got your roots on the end. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make some small cuts down here. Don't cut right to the end. And then once you've done that, you just slice it about halfway, but don't cut it right to the root. Okay. So like that, and then all you do is chop it there, and then you've got a nicely finely chopped onion. So we'll do the same on the other side. Make your slits. And that's the onion nice and finely chopped. So that's really all the preparation there is to do. So we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so the first step in making the sauce, add a tablespoon of oil, maybe a table and a half, about 1.5 tablespoons of oil. It would be better, like I said, if you've got olive oil, but unfortunately we haven't because I've run out. And then get that nice and hot. And what we're going to do now is we're going to fry the onions. Now you want to fry the onions so that they're nice and soft, but you don't want them browning. Okay, so we're going to add the onions. So we're going to fry these now. Bit of skin there. We're going to fry these so they get nice and soft. And then we'll move on to the next stage. So these are beginning to soften now. We don't want to cook them too much because we don't want them browning. So now we add all the spices. I'll turn that off for a minute and take it off the heat. So what I want to do now is I want to run my tomatoes through the blender, pulse it for about three times. So that's the next step, and then we're going to add them to the onions. Okay, so we're going to add these chopped tomatoes into the blender. As you can see, they're quite lumpy because they're chopped tomatoes. So we want to reduce them lumps down a little bit because we don't want lumps in a sauce. So all I'm going to do, pulse it about 3 times. So that should do. So that's reduced the lumps of tomatoes that's in there. We're now going to add that to the onions. Okay, so I've now got my onions back on the heat. Heat's back on. And we're now going to add the tomatoes that we've just run through the blender. As you can see now, that's took quite a lot of the lumps out, and it's not, the tomatoes are not as lumpy anymore, so you're not getting a lumpy sauce, you're getting a nice creamy sauce. You can use fresh tomatoes, but you'd have to skin them. And the way you do that is if you've got a fryer, you put your tomatoes into a boiling hot fat for about 3 seconds, and you'll see the skin starting to crispen. Pull them out, drain them off, and then you'll be able to peel the skins off the tomatoes and put them in your blender. So anyway, we're using tinned ones. So that's about ready now. So now we're going to add all the spices. So I'm going to sprinkle in 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, garlic granules. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit over it doesn't really matter. So 2 teaspoons of garlic granules go in there. A tablespoon or a good squirt of tomato puree. That's about a tablespoon. 2 teaspoons of sweet paprika, although like I said earlier on we haven't got any. So I'm going to be using ordinary paprika and just sweeten it with some caster sugar. So there's 1. 2 teaspoons of paprika. And now for the chilli powder. It depends on how hot you like it and how spicy you like it. I usually use about half a teaspoon of chilli powder, and it's not too hot. The wife doesn't like it too hot. And then, as I said earlier on, I shall now sweeten up that paprika with a teaspoon of caster sugar. That's all the ingredients. So what we do now is bring that to the boil and give it all a really good mixing in. It's quite simple to make, but it's really tasty. And make sure you get all those spices mixed well in. It is a simple sauce to make. It is nice. Now, like I said, this will feed 2 people. If you want more sauce, then just double the ingredients really, or triple them, depending on how many people you're cooking for. But this is for 2 people. So you get that nice and mixed in, bring it to the boil, and then simmer it with the lid on for about 10 minutes. Let all the spices get all infused in there, all infused in nicely in the sauce. So that's starting to boil, so I'm now going to turn it right down to simmer. Give another mix in, just keep popping in and giving it a good mix. You want those spices to mix well in, so just keep popping in and giving it a stir every now and then. So I'm going to simmer that for about 10 minutes and then come back. Okay, so that's been simmering nicely now for about 10 minutes. Just give it one more final stir. Now I have popped in 2 or 3 times during its simmering process, just to give it a stir. And that's the sauce done. So the next stage now will be to cook the potatoes and then the chicken and put it all together. Okay, now for the final stage of cooking this meal. So what I've done is I've drained the pan of potatoes, and what I want to do is I want to pour some boiling water, which is just boiled in the kettle, into there. And I also want to put the oven on to 200 degrees electric. If you're doing it in fan oven, sorry, 210 electric. If you're going to do it in the fan oven, it's 190. And also what we want to do is we want to put we're going to be cooking the potatoes in this roasting tin, which has got quite a lot of oil in there. So we're going to put that in the oven because it needs to be piping hot. So that can go in the oven to get nice and hot while we just boil these potatoes. Basically we just bring them to the boil and then for about 4 minutes or so let them boil and then take them out and drain them off. So I'm going to put them on now. So when the potatoes get to boiling, we'll leave it about 4 minutes or so, and then we'll take them off the heat and drain them. You need to make sure they're well drained to put them in the hot oil. So that'll be the next stage. Okay, so they've been boiling for about 5 minutes now. So we'll take them out of there and drain them off. Now you need to make sure these are well drained because you're going to be putting them in boiling hot fat. So we're going to leave them on there to drain for a few minutes while we're waiting for the oil to get nice and hot and for the oven to get to temperature. Okay, so my oven's at temperature. I pulled the roasting tin out. It's the fat of the oil is boiling hot. The potatoes have been well and truly drained. Now you'll hear a sizzle. And they can now go in the oven. So my potatoes are now on the way. What I need to do is to set the timer for about 40 minutes. So they'll cook for about 40 minutes. I'm going to keep popping in to turn them to make sure they get cooked all round. And then once 20 minutes is up, we put the chicken into the bottom oven, which I'm going to set the fan oven to about 180 degrees. And I'm going to put the chicken in for about 18 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to prepare the chicken now. In about 10 minutes time I'll put the bottom oven on to preheat. So when it gets to 30 minutes on that clock I'll put the bottom oven on to preheat. Let it get to about 180 degrees. And then when it gets down to 20 minutes I'll be putting the chicken in. So to do the chicken I'm just going to drop a touch of oil onto this baking tray, and I'm going to use a kitchen towel and I'm just going to mop it up because I don't want too much oil on there, and just run it around to grease it, but at the same time mop up any excess oil. So that's mopped up any excess oil, and then what I'm going to do then is lay out my chicken. So I'm going to get my pieces of chicken nicely marinated. I'm going to lay them out on there, and they're ready to go in the oven once the oven's ready. About 18 to 20 minutes, depending on the size of your chicken breasts. Make sure they're fully cooked. When you pull them out, just slice them, make sure they're white inside and there's no pink. So in a few minutes we'll be putting the chicken in. Right, so now we're ready to put the chicken into the bottom oven. Let that cook for about 18 to 20 minutes. Middle shelf, 180. In the meantime, I'm going to keep popping in and turning the potatoes. Make sure you keep popping in and turning them potatoes because you want them cooked all around. Once all that's done, we'll be taking out, reheating the sauce and plating up. So when it's everything's due to come out, we'll come back. So that's everything now ready. All it remains for me to do now is to plate up. I'm going to reheat the sauce, plate everything up. Hope you liked the video. If you did, please click on like and subscribe for more of my tasty recipes, which will be coming out soon. The next one I'm going to do will be meatballs in a spicy tomato sauce on a bed of tagliatelle. So I'm just going to plate this well up, and then me and the missus can sit down and enjoy it. So thanks for watching. And there you have it, my spicy chicken breasts with Patatas Bravas.